I don't know that. I don't know that feeling. I never had that, man. I never felt that
Hmm.
Jocko was a threat to my livelihood, or James Jamerson, or Steve Bailey, who's my dear friend, Victor. None of those guys. I felt that these are the guys. Monk Montgomery. We had a long talk many years ago. He was still with Lionel after he left Lionel Hampton's band about what he did with the electric bass. Those guys are my friends. They're my I'm a fan of their people, of those
Right.
people, because I watched how they have taken an instrument that was kind of called a pork chop in the slang of the instrument and made it a very serious musical event. When you see them play, when you hear the results of their effort, Bootsy Collins, all those guys, man, they made the bass do something. So when those electric guys got on the scene and became more visible, and they brought their influence not just to the music but to their use of amplification gear and the whole environment. I applauded those guys, man.
It's nice when it is that way. It's
Yeah.
nice when there's lots of different genres going on. It's nice when record labels are confused and don't know who to sign. These are the good moments in popular music, when creativity flows and the business is lagging behind.
Right.
And the bad times are where people have got the audience figured out, and they figured out exactly the tempo,
Right.
the song should be at, the kind of the structure. I mean, bit like kind of modern Nashville, I suppose, really, where it's so formulaic. There are good times, and I think the mid '60s in the UK was one of those times when it was just very creative, and the business was scrambling to catch up with that.
Yeah.
And one night after playing that same bass on the same songs on the same tour, for like 4 or 5 months, Ozzy turns to me on stage and goes, "Your bass doesn't have any bloody frets." Like, it took him that long,
What makes your work special? What is the synergy between you two guys?
I think I think it was a role that I decided to play with that band and the one thing that I learned from Alan Toussaint was that it's not what you play, it's what you don't play that's going to make this groove happen. And with that in mind, mostly more than with the Meters recordings, that first record, it was a busy porter, and you can hear as it graduated. By the time we got to the Strutting record, which was the third one, my bass lines had gotten simpler and with more space.
Right.
And so my thoughts was that the closer I played to Zig's bass drum,
Okay.
and the far away as I can get from his backbeat, then that's the zone that I want to be in. And so that was a concentrated effort on my part to just play with Zig rather than the other way around. I kind of like let him be the force of nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's like plan for success, but don't expect it. Like expect failure and plan for success. That way your defeats aren't crushing.
Yeah, and I think
know?
fail more often and more quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And don't make the same mistake twice. When you fail, learn from it. Don't do that again. Try something else and fail at something else.
Exactly.
So that you reduce the number of options.
Right.
But yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And Ron's a great example of that. He always positioned himself in a very intelligent way, and I would like to say that Snarky Puppy has done the same, or that I try to do that. Like try to think about what's the goal here? What's the objective? How do we get there? Let's map out those points, but let's also be very reactive and adaptive to any kind of forks in the road or any changes in the plan. And like, don't be married to your original idea, but just stay light on your feet and agile. And when there's an obstacle, you know, look at it as an opportunity and try to use it to your advantage, you know.
I bought it, I'll give you, I think I was 14. So whoever was around in, let me see, 67, just after Cream came out. And once I think I'd heard, yeah, maybe the Israeli Years, the songs knocked me out, Beatles songs knocked me out, McCartney knocked me out, he's a bass player, you know, knocked me out. The similarity of violin and bass was evident because the bass is tuned in fourths, the violin is tuned in fifths, but the string names are the same. G, D, A, and E, or E, A, D, G, you know, whichever way you look at it.
Exactly.
And I said, oh, I'll play this instrument in 2 weeks, because if I got done with Mendelssohn and Tchaikovsky, what's a bass going to be? And, you know, I learned it was a silly principle from a younger man that didn't really know what he was talking about. So, and
Yeah, and my wife and I spoke on the phone, and she said, "Rick, please come home to London because the kids have both got chickenpox and I'm going crazy." She said, "Oh,
Gosh.
I said, "But Lynn, I just don't know what to do." I said, I really want this job and I'm here, you know, I want to be here." She said, "No, please come home." Well, I did. I flew home to the UK and I was home for 1 day. And the phone rang early in the morning and it was Mick Jones and Bud Prager, the manager. He said, "Rick, how are you feeling?" I said, "Oh, jet lagged, you know, tired." He said, "Well, you're going to be feeling pretty good because we've just chosen you to be our bass player." I went, "Really?" Oh, we all just cheered. You know, it was so emotional for us. It really was. It was a big, big moment.
But you were really the
Stephen gave him the gig back on kind of short notice, I must say. So there I am sitting in this expensive house up in Laurel Canyon and now gigless. So I'm out having my coffee on my veranda, and my next door neighbor was Jim Valby, who was with Paul Revere and the Raiders. He was Harpo in that group.
Okay.
And so I'm looking out there, and he's got someone out there having coffee with him. And I look and I said, "That's Al Cooper." You know, I'd crossed paths with the Blues Project a couple of times, the Fillmore and a couple of others. So we knew each other, you know, passingly. Yep. He looks over and said, "Jim, hey man, come on down here. I've got an idea I want to run by you." And I went down there, and he described what was going to be Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And he said, "Why don't you come out to New York and play bass for us?"
Well, I think it first became to the note of people in the UK in the 1950s when a couple of German concert promoters called Littman Rao brought, I think, Sonny Terry Brown and McGee, Big Bill Broomsey, and maybe one or two others over to do a tour. I think that was 1956, and they played the Albert Hall. And you just remember the exciting thing was the guitar. I think that's really what started it, the guitar. And all these guys would a raw guitar playing bands, and bands like the Stones and Clapton and lots of many others. That's the first time we kind of got hooked and were introduced to that. I mean, some would have heard it before, but perhaps people like Alexis Corner, who's very well respected as a forerunner of British blues, probably did, but I didn't, except via Alvin's dad was a big prison song collector, American blues prison song collector. So I knew a lot of those people, Muddy Waters and different people. But that's what the appeal was.
For example,
Sure.
I think there's a recording of you on the one of the live compilations albums of In a Silent Way. I think you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Silent Way was sort of like built out of that band.
Okay.
But a lot of the other stuff, yeah, I definitely listen to Daryl because like that, how can you not?
Right.
So a lot of it was that, but the thing about that band is that the tunes would morph over time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you hear Street Scenes, Jack Johnson from the 70s and in the 80s, it was completely different. And all the tunes kind of morphed that way. Tempos would change, arrangements would change, and you just get it to a point, where then it was like the ultimate. And then as soon as that happened, we never played it again.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. He was a pretty consummate artist in that way. Very, it was so Buddhist, of just like, okay, that was the best way I'm ever going to play it. I don't ever want to play it again, and he usually always lived by that. It was pretty inspiring. For sure.
Did he
He was an original, and I have to say, out of all the people I've worked with all my career, he was the easiest because, if you walk into a room and go, okay, what would you like? It was never like that. You just sat there, and he would dictate certain little things, and he would go for the mistakes, or he would go for this kind of feel. I mean, the Last Dance album, which I didn't know, there was some politics going on between him and now Rojas, who were great together.
Yeah.
But he was making sure that, I think he was making sure that Chic didn't play on the whole album.
Right.
So it wouldn't sound like a Sister Sledge or Madonna or whatever at that time period. And use different guys, use organic guys, which is handpicked by us, Omar Key, myself, Tony Thompson.
Right.
And the tracks, there were really small skeletons of ideas. I'm going, okay, we're gonna have to put a lot of meat on this shit,
I think the thing that made Bonnie and me really click was that we both had an affinity for the same types of music. And when I first met Bonnie, she was somewhere between, folk and rock and blues. She's very much into blues.
Oh, absolutely. Sippy Wallace, right?
Well, Sippy Wallace, but also Fred McDowell and Buddy and Junior and Arthur Crudup and so many people. I mean, I actually watched Bonnie in Dick Waterman's office at the feet of Fred and a couple of other blues people, literally watching them and learning their licks and listening to their vocals. I mean, Bonnie really studied the blues. And if you listen, I mean,
Well, my approach really came out of Atlantic Records.
Okay.
Atlantic Records, and I mean the first gigs I remember playing. We played two types of things. Things where the front man, his name was Joey Villa or something like that, all the time.
Right.
And we played sort of like trumpet player. What's his name? Oh, this Louis Prima. Now I played countless Louis Prima type gigs.
Yeah.
And I play up in the Bourse circuit.
Right.
And I played around town, and it was that, or it was Wilson Pickett, or my first tour was with the Exciters.
Right.
Which is all in the book.
Yeah.
Right.
And that stuff, and I was playing in every funky R&B place there was on, up and down the East Coast when I was like 18 and 19 and 20.
Plus the fact, I mean, the way Rory recorded, he wanted to record live. He wanted to do like his heroes did, you know, because they recorded live.
Okay.
You know? I mean, some people say it was, it was too, maybe he should have gone a different direction, but that was Rory. That's the way he wanted it. I mean, the first couple of albums were completely live, the recordings, in the studio.
Yeah, but you.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why, but yeah, I took the electric bass really quick, and like all of us, like we played in a band right away. Like 1 week into holding the instruments, like okay, yeah, right.
Oh, it's only 4 strings.
It's only 4 strings.
Right, and you only play one note at a time, so it was pretty easy to like cop stuff off records and play with people. So the band, the idea of playing in a band was right away, like that's what music's about. And I'm really glad for that, because I think about the opposite of like having to practice by yourself for years before you even get to play with other people. It just sounds so sad to me.
And so I walk up the steps, and there's a guy sitting in like in a lobby. The doors are wide open. Is there a studio here? He goes, basement. Well, now I am going to get mugged.
Yeah, right.
Down in the basement, it's a dirt basement, dirt floor. There's a set of drums in the middle of the room, and Paul and Linda are sitting over in the corner.
Wow.
I said, hey, you're Paul McCartney. He goes, yeah, that's right. That's me. I said, well, what's up? And he said, well, I'm going to make a record here in town, and I'm looking at some drummers. Do you mind playing for me? And I said, sure, I don't mind playing for you. I think the next line that I said got me the job. I said, can you, got a guitar or a bass? Can we play together? He goes, no, just you. I said, well, you can't get it on by yourself. You can't get it on with somebody else. And he kind of liked that. And so, did some channeling Ringo and him from the McCartney album. So I played some time feels and some shuffle and this and that and the other thing. And just in there 10, 15 minutes, he goes, oh, thanks. That's great. That's all I need, man. He said, thank you very much for stopping by. And I said, thank you, man. What a great opportunity to run into a Beatle, Sure. I was used to seeing big artists, but not Beatles. So.
Well, I think, I think my tenacity is a great appeal. And also because anyone that hires me knows that I will always go the extra mile to, whether it's learning the material or, getting to rehearsals early. It's that preparation. They just know that they won't lose a minute of sleep, because whatever they send me that needs maybe working out, changing, whatever, and that's important to me. That's a great thing. But just also, I'm quite diplomatic as well. I'm kind of, I mean, the one thing that I got from the Jules gig is, you have to be a lot more than a musician. You have to be a babysitter, a social worker, a diplomat. Because some of those people that come and play with us, they're in the alien environments. We're in our element on that TV show.
Right.